The war between humans and the Virellan Empire had lasted for many years. Many planets had been destroyed. Many lives had been lost. The Virellans believed they were stronger, smarter, and more advanced than humans. Their leader, Queen Cerexa, had never seen a human with her own eyes, until now. A human soldier named Kai was captured during a surprise attack on the Virellan-controlled moon of Jaxor 7. He was alone, injured, and out of ammunition. Yet he still fought until he was surrounded by 20 Virellan warriors. Instead of begging for mercy, he simply dropped his weapon and raised his hands, staring calmly at his captors. The warriors expected fear. Instead, they saw a man with steady eyes and a quiet strength. They chained him and brought him to the capital ship orbiting the moon. There, Queen Cerexa waited. Cerexa stood tall, wearing black and silver armor that shimmered under the lights of her throne room. Her pale violet skin and glowing eyes made her look otherworldly, cold, and powerful. Her court of advisors stood silently behind her. When Kai was brought forward, she looked at him with curiosity. He was smaller than a Virellan, but there was something in his posture that caught her attention. "You are the first human to stand before me," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Your people are wild and reckless. You fight wars you cannot win." Kai looked around the room without fear. "And yet I'm still standing." Gasps came from her advisors. A prisoner speaking like that? It was unthinkable. But the queen raised her hand and silenced the room. She stared at him for a moment, then said, "You're either brave or foolish." "Maybe both," Kai replied with a small smile. The queen walked down from her throne and stood just a few steps away from him. She had seen many soldiers break under pressure. She had watched warriors beg for life. But this human was different. He wasn't trying to impress her or threaten her. He was simply present, calm, as if he didn't fear death. "I expected you to be afraid," she said. "I was trained to survive. Fear doesn't help." The queen tilted her head. "Do all humans speak like you?" Kai shook his head. "Most speak better. I just speak the truth." She narrowed her eyes and studied him. He had no armor, no weapon, no shield, and yet he carried himself like a warrior who still had the upper hand. Something wasn't right. She turned to her guards. "Take him to a private chamber. I want to study him further." As Kai was taken away, Queen Cerexa sat back on her throne. Her mind was full of questions. She had expected a broken man, easy to control. Instead, she found a human who made her feel unsure. That night, she watched the recordings of their meeting again. His tone, his posture, his words. There was something hidden beneath the surface. Something she couldn't explain. For the first time in years, Queen Cerexa didn't feel like the most powerful being in the room. And she didn't know why. Kai sat quietly in the private chamber where the Virellans had placed him. It was more comfortable than a prison cell, but still guarded at all times. The room had a soft blue light, a small bed, and no windows. It wasn't meant for comfort. It was for watching. Queen Cerexa had installed hidden cameras and scanners all around the room. Her scientists wanted to study his behavior. They expected to see signs of stress, fear, or weakness. But Kai didn't panic. He didn't pace the floor. Instead, he stayed calm, sometimes sitting still for hours as if waiting for something. One day, the queen watched the screen as Kai sat cross-legged on the floor with his eyes closed. He was meditating, something she had seen in old Earth files. But there was more to it. The scanners showed something strange. His brainwaves were steady but powerful. No normal soldier had ever shown that kind of focus. "Why can't we read his thoughts?" one of her advisors asked. "Our machines don't work on him," a scientist replied. "It's like his mind is blocking us." "Impossible," the queen said softly, yet she kept watching. She ordered her guards to bring Kai to the observation room. This time, she would face him again, alone. As Kai entered the tall chamber with glowing walls, the queen stood by the control table. There was no crown on her head, just her cold stare focused on him. You're different, she said. Kai didn't answer. Our scans cannot break through your mind. Our machines fail around you. Why? He looked at her and replied calmly. Maybe your machines were not made for humans. Are you using technology we can't detect? No. Then what is it? Kai shrugged. Maybe it's something your people forgot a long time ago. Willpower. The Queen stared at him, trying to decide if he was being honest or clever. She walked around him slowly, watching his every movement. There were no signs of fear or tension. He wasn't acting like a prisoner. He was acting like someone who knew something she didn't. You fight without weapons, you resist without tools, you speak without fear, she said. What are you hiding? Kai looked up at the ceiling. I'm just a soldier. No, she said. You're not just a soldier. You're something else, and I will find out what. That evening, the Queen ordered more tests. The scientists brought in energy readers, psychic wave detectors, and even ancient Virellan crystals used in past wars. Nothing worked. The devices shut down or gave false readings. Sorexa was now more curious than ever. She began reading old reports from earlier battles with humans. She found strange stories. Humans surviving in deep space without suits for minutes, humans lifting heavy alien weapons, and others influencing machines by touch. At the time, the stories were ignored as mistakes or lies. Now she wondered, were they true? In her quiet room, the Queen stood at the window and looked out into the stars. He's not normal, she whispered. He's something new. And far below in the chamber where Kai rested, he opened his eyes slowly, as if he had heard her. Queen Sorexa sat alone in the royal archive, a place where ancient war records were stored deep inside the Virellan capital ship. Only a few high leaders had access to these files. She asked for every report related to humans, especially the ones labeled unusual or incomplete. For hours, she read old data logs from the early battles. At first, the reports were normal, basic fights, weapon analysis, human ship movements. But then, she started to find strange events. One report described a human pilot who escaped a locked cell using nothing but his hands, no tools, no explosives. Another report talked about a soldier who walked through a fire zone without getting burned. And there was one file that made Sorexa pause completely. A Virellan captain had written, "The human's touch shut down our machines. Our weapons failed. He said nothing. He just stared at us and we felt weak." The report ended with the words, "Do not underestimate their will. It shapes reality." Sorexa leaned back in her seat. She had always believed the Virellans were the most evolved species in the galaxy. But something was different about humans, especially this one called Kai. Meanwhile, Kai sat in his chamber, eyes closed, breathing slowly. He wasn't resting. He was listening. Though there were no windows, no views of the outside world, Kai could feel energy in the air. Something old, something strange. He focused his thoughts and began to control his breathing. As he did, a soft hum filled the room and a small light on the wall flickered, even though no one had touched it. The guards watching from the control room saw the change. "He's doing something," one of them said. "Should we stop him?" the other asked. But the Queen, watching from her private monitor, said, "No, let him continue." Later, Sorexa entered his chamber. She asked the guards to wait outside. Alone with Kai, she walked slowly around him. "I read the old reports," she said. "Stories about humans doing impossible things. Some Virellans called them lies. Others called them warnings." Kai opened his eyes and looked at her calmly. "What do you believe?" "I'm not sure," she said. "But I believe you're hiding something." Kai didn't deny it. He just asked, "Why does it matter to you?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "My empire fears the unknown, and you are unknown." He nodded. "Maybe your people fear the wrong things." That made her pause. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not even her highest commanders. And yet, Kai wasn't rude. He was calm, honest. "Why are you different from other soldiers?" she asked. Kai looked down at his hands. Because I had to become something more. Sirex's eyes narrowed. More than human? Kai gave a quiet smile. No. Just more than what I was. The queen walked toward the door but stopped before leaving. I don't trust you, she said, but I want to understand you. Kai nodded again. Then stop watching me and start listening. Sirexa left without another word, but his final sentence stayed in her mind. That night, she didn't sleep. She kept thinking about him, about the calm human soldier who made lights flicker and machines fail just by breathing. Something was waking up in him, and it was something the galaxy had not seen before. The ship shook slightly as it passed through an energy storm in deep space. Lights flickered in the halls. Many systems went offline for a moment. It wasn't dangerous, but it created the perfect moment for chaos. In the lower decks, some Virelian prisoners started a riot. They had waited for the right time. Guards were overpowered, doors were forced open, and panic spread fast. Alarms screamed across the ship. In the middle of it all, Kai's chamber went dark. The power cut off and the door unlocked by mistake. He could have escaped, but he didn't. Instead, he stepped into the hallway and saw two guards on the floor. One was injured. Virelin prisoners ran past, not noticing him at first. Then one of them turned and raised a weapon. Kai moved quickly, knocking the weapon away and helping the injured guard to safety. From the control room, Queen Sirexa watched the scene on a cracked monitor. She saw Kai fight, but not like a normal soldier. He didn't use anger. He moved, with focus and control, as if he knew what each attacker would do before they acted. Even more shocking, he reached out to a broken Virelin drone lying on the floor, and it powered up at his touch. The drone, which was fully shut down, suddenly hovered and followed him like a trained pet. The Queen's advisors were stunned. He's controlling the drone, one shouted. No human can do that, another argued. But Sirexa said nothing. Her eyes were fixed on the screen. After the situation was under control, Kai was brought back, this time not by guards, but by a squad of elite warriors. The Queen had him taken straight to her private chamber. No audience. No advisors. She stood beside a large map of the galaxy and waited as he entered. This time there were no chains on his hands. You saved my people, she said quietly. They were in danger, Kai replied. I did what anyone should. No, she said. Most would have run. Most would have fought only for themselves. Kai looked at her. You don't really know humans, do you? Sirexa walked toward him. I know enough. You fight like animals. You challenge empires. You refuse to follow order. And still, Kai said, you're standing here talking. To one. The Queen raised her chin. What are you really? He paused for a moment, then answered, I'm part of something new. Some humans are changing. We don't fully understand it either, but we feel it. Sirexa crossed her arms. Changing how? Kai looked down at his hands. Our minds, our connection to machines, our energy. It's like something inside us is waking up. Maybe it's the stress of war. Maybe it's space itself. But it's real. The Queen stayed silent. She believed him, but she wasn't ready to admit it. You touched a drone, she said. And it obeyed. I didn't control it, Kai said. I just reached it. That's even more dangerous, she replied. He nodded slowly. That's why I wanted to be captured. The Queen's eyes widened. You let yourself be taken? I needed someone to see, someone in power. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Sirexa finally asked, And now that I've seen, what do you want? Kai looked into her eyes. I want you to listen. Queen Sirexa sat in the high council room with her closest advisors. The air was tense. Everyone had seen the footage of Kai during the riot. Some were impressed, most were afraid. One general slammed his fist on the table. He is a danger to the Empire. He controls machines with no device, no code. What if others like him exist? Another council member added, This is not normal human behavior. It is a threat. We should act before it spreads. But Queen Cerexa didn't speak right away. She watched them argue while her thoughts remained, with Kai's calm voice and strange abilities. He had the chance to escape, she finally said. Instead, he saved our guards. He protected our ship. That does not mean he is loyal, the general said. No, Cerexa agreed. But it means he has a choice. The room fell silent. The queen looked around. And I choose to learn, not destroy. Later, in the observation garden, Queen Cerexa walked beside Kai. The garden floated inside a glass dome with views of distant stars. The trees were shaped by alien winds, glowing softly in the night-like atmosphere. Kai admired. The plants. Your people know how to build beauty, Cerexa replied. Beauty doesn't win wars. Kai smiled. Maybe that's why we keep losing. She looked at him. But you don't act like someone who's lost. Kai stayed quiet for a moment. Then he said, Sometimes you lose a battle to win something greater. Cerexa raised an eyebrow. And what are you trying to win, human? Kai turned toward her. Trust. The queen stopped walking. Trust was not something she gave easily, but she couldn't deny it. She had started to respect him. Not as a soldier, as something else. Something not fully understood. Back in her private study, Cerexa opened another file. It was a scan of Kai's brain activity from earlier tests. The results were unusual. Human minds weren't supposed to show such high stability during stress. His showed complete balance even when surrounded by danger. A scientist entered and bowed. Your Majesty, we have confirmed something. What is it? She asked. We compared Kai's pattern to other humans we've encountered. His energy, signature is unique. It's not a weapon, not a shield. It's natural, alive. Alive? Cerexa asked. It responds to his emotions. When he feels calm, machines nearby work better. When he's angry or focused, tech begins to react. Strangely, Cerexa leaned back in her chair. A human who could influence energy with his feelings. That was not evolution. It was transformation. That night, Cerexa visited Kai again. No guards, no cameras. You said more humans like you are coming, she said. Yes, he replied. Some have already changed, some will change soon. And what happens then? She asked. Kai looked out at the stars. Then we won't be just fighters. We'll be something new, not stronger through weapons, but through will. Cerexa studied him in silence. She had ruled through fear and strength, but Kai was showing her a different kind of power, one that couldn't be measured. You confuse me, human, she said softly. Kai smiled. Maybe that's the first step to peace. The queen didn't answer, but her silence was not rejection. It was thought. Deep thought. And far away on distant planets, more humans like Kai were awakening. The galaxy was changing, and the Virellans were no longer the only power rising. The days passed quietly aboard the Virellan capital ship, but tension grew beneath the surface. The story of the human named Kai had begun spreading among the crew. Some were curious, others were afraid. A few even started to respect him. Queen Cerexa could feel the shift in her empire. Her people were used to clear lines. Enemy or ally, strong or weak, Virellan or other. But Kai didn't fit into any of these boxes. He had shown strength without violence, power without machines, and respect without fear. She summoned him again, this time to the Royal Strategy Hall. The large room was filled with maps of the galaxy and glowing images of war zones. Kai looked around as he entered. Your empire has reached far, he said. Cerexa nodded. And now we're standing at a point where it may fall. Kai turned to her. Because of me? She shook her head. Because of what you represent. She pointed to a star system blinking red on the map. We crushed 3 planets there. The people surrendered. But after seeing what you did, some are rising again. Kai looked at her carefully. So what now? Will you silence the truth? She turned to him, face calm. No, I want to understand it. I want to know what's coming. And maybe I want to be ready for it. Kai raised an eyebrow. You don't want war? Sorexa sighed. I've lived through enough war. I want something that lasts longer than victory. Something that brings peace. Kai nodded slowly. Then listen to this. Humans aren't your enemy. Fear is. Sorexa thought for a moment, then said, I have an offer. Kai stood still, listening. I will not return you to Earth. I will not keep you locked away either. I want you to stay, as my advisor, as someone who can guide us, someone who can help shape the future. Kai was surprised. You want a human on your royal council? Not just any human, she replied. You. He looked into her eyes, searching for the trick, the trap. But she was being honest. For the first time, she wasn't speaking as a queen, but as someone searching for a better path. Why take this risk? Kai asked. Because if more humans like you are coming, she said, then I don't want to fight them. I want to understand them. Maybe even walk beside them. Later that evening, Kai stood in the garden once more. The stars above seemed brighter. The plants swayed gently in the artificial breeze. He thought about Earth, about the war, about everything he had lost, and everything he had found here. A young Virilan officer approached him. Is it true, she asked, that the queen offered you a place at her side? Kai nodded. Why didn't you run when you had the chance? He looked at her and replied, because running never brings change. She gave a small bow and walked away, still unsure how to feel about the human who had become something more. Back in her chamber, Sorexa stared at her reflection. The ruler of a great empire was now seeking advice from a man whose kind was once seen as primitive. But deep in her heart she knew something powerful was rising within the humans. Not just weapons or ships, but something invisible, something unshakable. And in Kai, she saw the beginning of it. The grand chamber was filled with silence. The Virilan council stood in a wide circle, eyes fixed on the human in the center. Kai stood tall, calm, and steady, just as he had always been. But today was different. Today, he was not a prisoner, not a stranger. Today, he was being introduced as a royal advisor to the queen. Queen Sorexa stepped forward, wearing her ceremonial robe with silver lines that shimmered like flowing stars. This human, she spoke firmly, stood against fear, chaos, and pain he could have destroyed. Instead, he chose to help. He could have run. Instead, he stayed. Some council members nodded in respect. Others remained silent, unsure. But none dared to interrupt. I now ask, Sorexa continued, that he be seen not as a threat, but as a bridge between our people and his. Kai bowed slightly. I don't speak for all humans, he said, but I'll speak the truth where I can. I'll stand where I'm needed. A few Virelans in the room exchanged glances. One even muttered, strange, yet strong. Later in the quiet garden, Sorexa joined Kai once again. The stars above the glass dome seemed to blink with new meaning. Do you believe peace is possible? She asked. Kai looked at her. Only if both sides want it. Peace doesn't come from talks alone. It comes from understanding. She nodded. My people still fear you. He smiled. Fear is the first step toward learning. She turned toward him and said, You've changed something in me, human. I no longer see your kind as simple or weak. Kai looked into the sky. And I no longer see your kind as cold rulers. You made a choice to listen. As weeks passed, change began across the Virilan Empire. Small groups of humans and Virilans began joint missions, studying planets, healing damaged worlds, building instead of destroying. Tensions remained, but something new had started, something built on respect, not fear. Kai remained close to the queen, not as a servant, but as a voice of reason. He taught the Virilans about human resilience, emotion, and growth. In return, he learned about the stars, about cultures long lost, and powers that shaped the galaxy. And across the galaxy, whispers spread. Of a human who sat beside a queen, not with weapons but with wisdom. One night as he walked alone near the energy lake at the edge of the ship, Kai stopped and closed his eyes. He felt the deep pulse of the universe around him, the hum of machines, the warmth of thought, the quiet beat of life. He placed his hand on a nearby pillar. It lit up softly, not because of tech, but because it recognized something in him. Not a weapon, not a power, but a spark of balance. Queen Syrexa watched from a distance and whispered to herself, "He is not a soldier anymore." In the end, it wasn't strength or fear that changed the course of history. It was the moment a human chose to stay instead of escape. The moment an alien queen chose to listen instead of rule with silence. Together, they started something no war ever could. Hope